Hello and welcome to my meditation. My name is Debra Baker and I'm so grateful that you've joined us for a little while. We are going to tune in to some more spirits. Last week we got some messages from a few spirits who are on the other side, who used to walk this earth and now are in the oneness, and now this week we're going to hear from a few more. So let's get started. As usual, let's begin with our 3 nice, really deep breaths. Breathing all the way down, filling up your lungs, holding it for a second, and then letting it out slowly. Taking another deep breath, filling your belly up a little more deeply. Think about even breathing into your back. Just breathe it in, fill it up, hold it for a second, and then release it really slowly. And now take the deepest breath you've taken all day. Hold it for a second, and let it out. Now let's relax our bodies. So to relax our bodies, let's tighten everything up to the center line first. Just pull everything together, your legs, your pelvis, your torso. Clench your fists, tuck your chin, draw your shoulders up to your ears, and just pull everything in as if you're pulling your aura in as tightly as it can. Hold it for 1 breath cycle. And then let it all go. And imagine relaxing your aura as well. So you're really just letting go. That's our daisy, if you can hear the rustling of the leaves. So I had a beloved client, and sometimes if I just think of her, her son comes to me, and his name is Steve. And he has a message for all of us, which is that when we have a death that is unexpected, no one wants to see a child die, no one wants to lose their beloved, but especially children, or even someone's child. If your children are adults, you still don't want to lose them before, that is not the natural progression of things. And that's what happened with Steve. But what he's telling me is, when the death happens, it doesn't feel right. And everything about us screams, no, 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 no. He said, but for him, especially as a child, as soon as he let go and passed to the other side, greeted by all of those loved ones and just this huge energy field of peace and love, he said it all made sense. And he's telling us that in the human form, it doesn't make sense a lot of the times. How much of our lives don't make sense, but those big deals like that seem to not make sense. And he's saying when you get there, it does. He's also encouraging us to let go of the idea that everything needs to make sense, and to just more or less be at peace with it, to accept. I guess what he's saying is, let's focus on acceptance, on accepting what is, and that's how we get through a grief process, is by finally accepting what happened, whatever it is. It can be a loss of a loved one or something else unexpected or unwanted. And so let's settle into that energy of acceptance. Just think about breathing into acceptance. Thank you, God. I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't know if you've heard the saying, what we resist persists, but there is truth to that. And when we stop resisting, everything becomes okay. And we also realize that it's not our job to make it okay, whether it's for ourselves or someone else. Acceptance doesn't mean that we condone something or we wish that it happened. It means that we know it is what it is. And to resist it, to fight it, is just futile. And Steve has one final message, which is, when a soul leaves this earth, it never stops loving the people it left behind. And so Steve's love for his mother and his brother and, even the family that he's never met goes on. And they feel the love and they send the love. So I encourage you to think about someone you know who has passed away and to remember how much they love you. They still do. And so our next soul that has come to me, it's interesting the way I do this is I just sit here in peace and allow whomever has a message for us to come through. And so the name I'm getting is Joyce, which again is not someone that I personally know or knew. And she's kind of echoing Steve's sentiment. And she's saying something similar to what we heard last week. So she's saying her family just cannot seem to accept that she's gone. Cannot seem to accept how she left this earth. The whole situation, none of it is acceptable. And she sees all of this angst and all of this energy poured into the resistance and poured into the anger and the rage. And she's saying, I'm not telling you not to feel what you feel. I'm not telling you that at all. What I'm saying is don't feed it. Feel the rage and let it go. That is certainly her message right here, right now, is let it go. Everything, all of it, let it go. She wishes deeply that she could say or do something that would bring them the peace that can only come from their accepting their own thoughts and accepting their own emotions and process. So whatever it is that you're fighting right now, let's take a little time in silence. Just think about letting it go. there is this divine flow, this divine energy that moves in, through, and as us. And when we let go of our angst, we can tune into it, we can get in the flow more easily. But what I'm not saying, and what the guides are not saying, is to let go of all of your emotions and to let go of your humanness, that it is superior to be human and inferior to, that it is inferior to be human. If you let go of your humanness, then you can be one with the divine. Okay, so there's a guide here named Martin, who is the one who gave me that idea, and he's saying that life is short. Life is short. I feel like he was 33, 35 when he passed. And I get the sense from him that he feels like he lived on borrowed time. So I can't really get a sense of whether he had he did have a long-term illness, and it was a mental illness. So it was depression. And so he, was never sure from one day to the next whether he wanted to stay here. And so he very much wants to give the message that there's nothing inferior about being in human form. He's encouraging us to enjoy it, appreciate it, relish it, savor it. It is fall, autumn, as I record this meditation, and I encourage you to go out and look at the leaves that are changing and just take them in. Imagine you could take that beauty into your soul, into your heart. Martin is saying, if you are depressed, if you've suffered from depression or any other mental illness, because it's an illness, don't let what anyone else says or society says about it's more okay to have one illness like cancer or diabetes than it is to have another like mental illness or addiction. They're all illnesses. They're all things that stand in the way of our living our best lives. So don't listen to anybody make a judgment on whatever it is that plagues you right now. He's saying instead, really appreciate your courage. For some people, just staying here from one day to the next is an act of courage. Deciding I'm not gonna take my life today. I'm going to show up. And sometimes the act of courage isn't so much about staying alive as it is, taking that next step, or being present to ourselves and our lives. Whatever it is, he's saying, he's like almost like got me by the shoulders, like tell them to appreciate their own courage, to recognize how brave you have been, what a brave soul that you have been and that you continue to be. Because sometimes it's really hard to be in a human experience, especially if you experienced trauma in the past. And I personally, speaking as Debra, have yet to meet someone who hasn't experienced some sort of trauma. And so this put an indelible mark on us. And my work is about healing those marks so that we can see them, but they don't hold us back. And so every time that you step out, every time that you speak up, every time that you do what you never thought you could do, give yourself a pat on the back. You are encouraged to really appreciate yourself and And interesting, the word encourage. You are encouraged to appreciate your courage. Because when we encourage, it's like we want to give someone courage. And so Martin says, let me give you courage. If I can leave anything in this meditation today, it is that you are braver than you think you are. And you are loved far, far more than you think you are. You're precious and lovable and whole and perfect. Let's just take that in for a few seconds. You're brave and precious and lovable. You are brave and precious and lovable. Wait, there's so much more to you than you think. There truly, truly is. So thank you so much for joining us. Share this with anyone that you think it might help. And if you know who Joyce or Martin are, I encourage you to let me know, because last week's meditation I've already heard from heard who one of the people was, which is exciting for me to know that I'm able to be helpful to complete strangers. And next week's meditation comes out on Halloween. I love Halloween. I feel like I'm in my element. So let's take a deep breath. And I just want to remind you that the infinite presence moving in, through, and as me honors and recognizes and blesses the infinite presence moving in, through, and as you. Namaste.